BBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Maajid Nawaz.
Far-right leaders, Nick Griffin, the former leader of the BNP, and David Duke, former leader of the KKK, have both rallied behind Corbyn and his remarks on quote-unquote Zionists, while a senior Labour MP has called Corbyn a racist anti-Semite. And that's after a film emerged of him giving this following speech.
The other evening we had a meeting in Parliament in which Manuel made an incredibly powerful and passionate and effective speech about the history of Palestine, the rights of the Palestinian people. This was dutifully recorded by the thankfully silent Zionists who were in the audience on that occasion, and then came up and berated him afterwards for what he had said. They clearly have two problems. One is they don't want to study history, and secondly, having lived in this country for a very long time, probably all their lives, they don't understand English irony either. Manuel does understand English irony and uses it very, very effectively, so I think they needed two lessons which we can perhaps help them with.
Wow. Now, as I hear that, honestly, the hairs on my body stand on end. The sheer patronising tone, the sheer otherising involved in that speech, the sheer... just the insults that it was laden with. But I understand why some people don't understand it. How was that racist? Well, this is what I want to try and do. I want to try and demonstrate that I understand why you might not think it's racist, and then explain why it is racist and why even Corbyn now has admitted that he won't be using such language again. To understand that, let's first focus on the meaning of the phrase Zionist. Now, people that are defending what you just heard Corbyn say are saying, look, Zionism is a political position in support of, and this is me still manning their argument. In other words, I'm now saying this is what they believe. I don't agree with it. This is what they think. And then I'm going to then refute it. But they think that Zionism means supporting the Israeli colonial project, supporting the settlement projects in the West Bank, in the occupied territories. They think Zionism means basically the Greater Israel project and expanding into the Middle East and denying Palestinians their homeland. And so in that sense, when you say, I don't like Zionists, in their minds, they're referring to those people. Now, of course, that's not what Zionism means. And so, even though I understand why some people are confused, Corbyn should know better. Zionism is simply the word used for people that believe that the Jewish people have a right to national self-determination and a homeland. In other words, Israel's right to exist. If you believe Israel as a country is a legitimate country that has a right to exist, you are a Zionist. It's as simple as that, because that's all Zionism means. And so if you then take that proper meaning of the word Zionism and listen back to what Corbyn said, it would make no sense if he was talking about Theresa May being a Zionist. She's been here all her life and she doesn't even understand proper English and English irony. And so thankfully she's silent because she needs to learn 2 lessons from the English. That would make no sense if Corbyn was talking about Theresa May in those terms. Yet Theresa May is a Zionist because she believes Israel has a right to exist. And that's how it becomes absolutely clear that Corbyn wasn't talking about Zionism in the sense that it's a political project to deny Palestinians their right to national self-determination and occupy the West Bank, because it would make no sense if he was referring to Theresa May in that context. That's why you understand when you hear it in this way that Corbyn was using the word Zionist in that speech as a euphemism for British Jews who are Zionist. And that's why the accusation of racism has come along. After hearing that explanation, you can see why it's so chilling that Corbyn in that speech said, for example, thankfully silent Zionists. So now you can read into that and say he's saying, thankfully silent British Jews who aren't interrupting me. Then he uses the word they, and he says they need a lesson in history. They meaning Zionists, which is a euphemism for British Jews. And then he says they don't understand English irony. They need 2 lessons they can learn from us. Us meaning the English. And it's when you understand the context of the language in that way, you understand it would make no sense if he was talking about English non-Jewish Zionists who are English and therefore, of course, wouldn't need to learn lessons from the English. And it was a euphemism for Jews. He was talking about Jews, and that's why it's racist. We're going to speak to Richard Millett, who was the blogger on anti-Semitism, who was in the audience, about whom Corbyn was speaking at that time when he made these racist remarks. Before we do, I'll say one last thing. For all of you who are probably now Corbyn supporters getting quite angry that I'm accusing him of being an anti-Semitic and racist, even Corbyn himself has acknowledged in his subsequently released statement that he would no longer use the word Zionist in this way, because he's acknowledging that it's become a euphemism for Jews. And so it's important to accept this point, because your dear leader has accepted it himself. Just throwing the word Zio or Zionist around like that is racist, because you're referring to British Jews. That's what the word has come to mean. And that's why Nick Griffin, former leader of the BNP, and that's why David Duke, former leader of the KKK, suddenly started applauding Corbyn. And that, Corbyn followers, should send shivers down your spines, if that's the level of support you're attracting. Right, we're going to go to Richard, as I said, who was the blogger in the audience that Corbyn was referring to. Richard, can you hear me?
Hi, yes, Maajid. Hi.
Afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us. Were you present when Corbyn made those remarks?
No, I was recording dutifully the meeting that he was referring to.
Yeah, and so he was referring to you as being the thankfully silent Zionist.
Me. It was only me. Only me. Only me. Only me. And the other thing is, Maajid, the important thing I haven't actually made clear in any one I've spoken to, Jeremy Corbyn knew I was Jewish. I'm absolutely 100% adamant. He knew I was Jewish. He knows who I am. He knew who I was 5 years ago. We used to mix in the same circles. And he would have seen my name on the blog, because the only way he would have known that the meeting had been dutifully recorded was because the only one dutifully recording it was me. I was the only one who wrote it on my blog, which has my name on my blog. So he would have known my name. He would have known me because he presented a programme on Press TV. I was a regular, still am, admittedly, on Press TV. We bumped into each other at Press TV. He would have seen me on the schedules. He would have seen me on the programme. He would have seen my face on Press TV. He knew that I was Jewish. He knew who I was. He would have seen my blog. That's why he made the comment challenging my Englishness. It was a deeply anti-Semitic remark based on attacking my background, having full awareness of my background.
He knew, what I'm hearing you say is he knew exactly who you were. I assume he knew your English, and yet still decided to otherize you. Exactly.
It was an insinuation that I don't belong in the United Kingdom, in Great Britain, and attacking my also sense or knowledge of history. Put in my biography, like you, I was at SOAS. I've got a master's in politics and society in the Middle East, so I've read hundreds of books on the Middle East, so I'm fully aware of the issues of the region.
For those unaware, SOAS is an acronym for the School of Oriental and African Studies. It's part of the University of London. It's the United Kingdom's most prestigious university for studying Middle Eastern affairs. And you've graduated from there, and yet you, an Englishman, has been accused of being ignorant of history and of the Middle East. Yet you graduated from the expert college on the Middle East. When you heard those remarks coming from Corbyn about you, how did it make you feel?
Well, vindicated in a way, because it showed him finally for what he is, and he cannot slither away from this one now. He's pinned himself as expressing deeply racist anti-Semitic comments by otherising me as a non-Englishman because of my Jewish background. And it's very hard going to these meetings, Maajid, to hear these anti-Semitic comments. Manuel Hassasian, the PLO representative in the UK, said that, this is in Parliament, so I was recording a meeting in Parliament saying, Manuel said that he believes that the Jews are the only children of God, and that the promised land is now being paid for by God. This old horrific anti-Semitic trope that Jews just want money. So now Jews are not just being accused of being in charge of the Federal Reserve, they're now being accused of controlling God's money. And to go to these meetings, hear these deeply racist remarks applauded by the audience in Parliament, in the centre of our democracy, is absolutely chilling. It's very emotional to hear it, and when you come home and write about it again, it's very upsetting and stressful. And finally, to hear Corbyn make these comments just shows you that this whole process is deeply anti-Semitic. It has nothing to do with reasonable criticism of Israel's government policies. The aim is totally aiming at British Jews. This is just an attempt to attack, hurt British Jews, and by othering us and othering me, and by implication the rest of British Jews, he has finally shown himself and vindicated my blogging about it, that this is all just a deeply anti-Semitic process.
Richard, where were you born, by the way?
I was born in London.
Yeah.
I've lived here for 50 years, apart from 3 years studying law at Leeds University. My dad built up a retail chain of shops. He provided lots of employment to employees. He gave boosts to a lot of small businesses who he gave orders to. He's provided to this country in those terms, supporting people in this country in a financial, material way, backing them that way, more than Jeremy Corbyn could ever even dream of providing to this country.
Yeah. Richard, well, I tell you what, I'd rather stand next to you as a Londoner and as an Englishman than next to people that hold such racist and othering and anti-Semitic views. And as long as I remain a radio broadcaster as well as a campaigner on these issues, I will stand with you side by side. You have a place, and all other British Jews have a place in this country as our equals and as our friends, and I shudder when I hear things coming from the British Jewish community that they no longer feel safe and want to live in this country in the prospect that Corbyn is elected. It makes me It really does make me upset. So thank you for speaking to us today, and thank you for calling in. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. I will end just by reading Corbyn's statement on this affair. He has said that he spoke out at a 2013 conference at the Palestinian Return Centre to defend the Palestinian ambassador. This is Corbyn's remarks, in the face of what I thought were deliberate misrepresentations from people, quote, for whom English was a first language when it isn't for the ambassador. Mr. Corbyn continued to say, I described those pro-Israel activists as Zionists in the accurate political sense and not as a euphemism for Jewish people, and that is made clear in the rest of my speech that day. I am now more careful with how I might use the term Zionist, because a once self-identifying political term has been increasingly hijacked by anti-Semites as code for Jews. End of quotes. That's Corbyn's statement on this affair. We're opening up the lines. We want to speak to you. 0345 60 60 973. Why exactly are Corbyn's Zionist references in that speech we just heard deemed racist? You're listening to Maajid Nawaz, and the time now is 1:17.
This is LBC.
Lidl have a great range of British barbecue meats. Chinese-style chicken thighs, only $2.09. 4 sweet chili chicken skewers, just $2.19. Only $2.69 for vintage cheddar beef burgers. And maple glazed pork belly slices, just $2.69. Lidl, big on quality, little on price. Subject to availability, and may vary. Selected stores while stocks last.
We are here every day and every night of every year. From newborn to old age. We never panic. We take a pulse, agree a plan, make a cuppa. We're doing our rounds, making our visits. We are Michelle, Adam, Alfie, Frankie, Yvonne. And at 3:49 this morning, we were Maisie too. We are the NHS, and we are recruiting now. Search nursing careers.
Everyone's asking you if you've ever had PPI. And for a good reason. If you've had a mortgage, loan or credit card in the past, you could be owed thousands. The deadline for making a PPI claim has now been set. So now's the time to text Allay Claims to see if you could be due a refund. We'll do a free, no obligation PPI check and let you know if you could be owed money. So don't be off your trolley. Get in touch with Allay Claims now. Text WIN to 60012. That's WIN to 60012.
Don't miss the last few days of the Furniture Village sale this bank holiday weekend. With final reductions on a huge choice of sofas, dining and beds, including all our famous brands. So pop in store or go online now and complete your home in one in the Furniture Village sale. Many offers end bank holiday Monday.
You will need 5,000 eggs, 450 bags of flour and one big tent. Add 12 slightly nervous bakers. Mix it with 30 new challenges.
On your marks, get set, bake.
Then add a dash of Hollywood's handshakes to taste.
Wow, I think you've done an amazing job.
The Great British Bake Off starts Tuesday at 8 on Channel 4.
If you own a Swiss watch and it's time to sell it, speak to watches.co.uk. The whole process runs like clockwork. Rolex, Patek Philippe, Omega and more. It only takes a couple of ticks and we pay immediately. Or if you just fancy a change, we could take yours in part exchange. From time on your hands to money in your pocket, it couldn't be easier with watches.co.uk. The pre-owned Swiss watch specialist.
Life is about sharing those magical moments, and food shouldn't be any different. For over 35 years, Marouche has been perfecting this experience with their delicious food, warm hospitality and live entertainment. Authentic Lebanese cuisine made the traditional way. Marouche, your family restaurant. Book now at marouche.com.
Maajid Nawaz on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Going back straight to the calls, far-right leaders rallied behind Corbyn, while a senior Labour MP has called him a racist anti-Semite after a film emerged of him giving a speech on, quote, Zionists in Britain. So why exactly were Corbyn's Zionist references deemed racist? That's the debate. 0345 6060 973 is the number to call. And George has been waiting from Croydon. Tell us what you think, George.
Hi, Maajid. Well, Jeremy Corbyn's version of Zionism is the 1967 UN version, based on international law. In Israel, he supports the existence of a Jewish state, but he also supports the UN perspective on that, which outlaws the theft of land and the forbidding of the ownership of land by the people who live in it or Palestinian. I mean, that seems to me pretty racist there, Maajid. If you're calling someone who objects to that a racist, I think that kind of makes you a racist. You know what I mean? To me. That is racist behaviour, to stop people owning land in their own country.
Hold on, George. Hold on a minute. Hold your horses. Hold on. Corbyn referred to a group of people in othering language. The group of people he was referring to, in the context of the sentence he uttered, it would have made no sense if he was referring to Theresa May or any other white English person as saying they speak English and they don't understand English irony. That doesn't make any sense. He was referring to British Jews in that speech. And as you just heard from the person he was directly referring to, who claims that Corbyn knew exactly who he was. So if you're referring to a minority group and you're othering them by inferring they don't necessarily understand how to be English properly, George, you're meant to be, I imagine, a leftist. Leftists generally are uber-sensitive about every microaggression of racism they see coming from the right. Are you seriously telling me that you can't see those othering comments of Corbyn in any way as othering a minority group in this country?
Well, I'm saying that something that's very small and subtle has been magnified enormously.
Wait. We'll get to whether it's magnified, George.
Corbyn is unacceptable.
George, we'll get to whether it's magnified. First, do you agree that it was othering of a minority community?
Well, I'm not sure of the context. This is a really subtle thing here. He was addressing a particular small group who misunderstood a particular point. I mean, to me, it's making massive mountains out of molehills.
George, are you? What is your background, George? Are you? Tell us a bit about yourself. Do you vote Corbyn? Are you a leftist? Who are you?
I kind of struggle to vote for anyone now. I personally know I've seen Corbyn in action as an individual, and I have fantastic respect for him because I used to run a little charity in Croydon.
Are you? What are you typically? What we describe as white English? Who are you?
Sorry?
Are you white English?
Well, my family are Irish, but I mean...
No. You're born in England, right?
I mean, the point is, Corbyn...
No, that's not the point. George, I'm asking you a question. I'll ask you what the point is.
Yeah, well, this is your MI5 techniques here. I mean,
there we are. Wow.
When you've got problems with an argument, you start forcing questions on people and force them into corners...
Do you think I'm MI5, George?
That are inappropriate to the argument.
Do you think I'm MI5?
That's the whole training is this. I mean,
do you think I've been trained by the MI5?
Brian does it. It's a technique that LBC presenters use. When they've got a problem, they ask a question and demand an answer to that question because it goes nowhere that the caller wants to go. That's what it's about.
Do you think I'm trained by MI5?
I think there's agencies that train presenters. It's obvious, okay? And there's been books written about this, okay? Books written
Which ones?
I've read.
Which ones?
Well, about the CIA and the media, global media. It doesn't matter about stuff like that. I mean, how
if it doesn't matter, I'd ask you why you raised it. You've just suggested I'm trained by MI5, and now you're saying it doesn't matter.
About your technique.
My technique my technique trained by MI5.
When you get in a problem with an argument, trying to force people to answer an inappropriate question.
Yeah. Okay, so now considering you've called up on a national radio show where I'm the host and you're the guest, are you going to do me the courtesy of actually addressing a question I raised to you?
Well, I know that you've got the power in this conversation, but I've responded to your question by saying...
Well, George, no. Talking about power dynamics, George, considering you are a lefty that has great respect for Corbyn...
I'm not a lefty anymore. I'm not neither left
really?
nor right.
Okay, considering you're somebody that has great respect for Corbyn the lefty, and, really, really do respect him so much that you've called on a national radio show to defend him, George, I'm going to put it to you, when you talk about power, I'm going to put it to you how entirely inappropriate it is for white English George to call up and say that brown Pakistani origin Maajid is the racist for being concerned about othering of minority communities in this country. Do you not see that in any way that you're arrogantly dismissing concerns of racism coming from minority communities who you're meant to be looking after, George, as somebody... what was Corbyn's slogan, was it? A kinder, fairer politics? I mean, does that sound kind and fair to you? Dismissing minority communities' concerns who are screaming at the top of their lungs that they're worried about a rising anti-Semitism across Europe?
Are you concerned about the Palestinians being treated the way they are in Israel?
George, you don't get to answer my question with a question, George. You get to answer my question, and then if you like, you can ask me one. Right, so first answer my question.
LBC is not concerned. LBC is concerned about 3 hours a day of Jewish propaganda complained about Corbyn.
Jewish propaganda.
It's an operation.
Jewish propaganda, George. George, Jewish propaganda.
He is unacceptable to the Jewish community in this country.
George, did you just use the word Jewish propaganda?
0.5% of the population want to dictate to the 99.5% here. I do not.
Who's that 0.5%, George?
Sorry?
Who is that 0.5% you refer to?
The Jewish community.
Right, there you are. George, you're a disgusting anti-Semite who believes in Jewish controlling the media, conspiracy theories. You believe Jews are dictating to the rest of the country how to behave. You, calling in to defend Corbyn, have just proven my point. You're an anti-Semite, George, and I suggest to you go and check your privilege and go and purge yourself of that disgusting trait you have known as racism. Because it has seeped so deep inside you that while calling to defend Corbyn against racism, you're oblivious to the fact that you're preaching it yourself. Really, that's really low of you, George, to say the Jews control the media and that being 0.5% of this country, they control the rest of the country. Does it not occur to you that's exactly the kind of propaganda Hitler pushed before he engaged in the Holocaust? It's disgusting, George. You make me sick. Frankly, I don't ever want to speak to you again. Can everyone please make sure I never speak to George again? That's disgusting. We're going to go to Jane, please, from Liverpool. Tell us what you think, Jane.
Hi. I just wanted to make a little point that is very important. called Zionism, well, you suggested maybe Zionism is just a political movement. It's more than that. Just the same as Mecca is the focus of the Muslim religion. Israel, especially Jerusalem, is the focus of the Jewish religion, so it's much more complex than that. And if I can just quote you a tiny little line.
Jane, what do you mean it's much more complex than that? Before you carry on, because I don't understand what you mean. I'm somebody who, by the way, speaks fluent Arabic. I graduated in Arabic. I studied at the School of Oriental and African Studies. I've lived in the Middle East for 5 years. When somebody called Jane tells me it's a lot more complex than that, I get confused, because it implies that I don't understand the complexities of the Middle East.
No, I'm not implying that.
Right, so what is it you mean, Jane? What do you mean when you say it's more complex than that?
Just calling it a political movement. I'm not criticising you.
What? Calling what a political
movement? It's more than that to the Jewish people. It's a focus. Jerusalem is the focus of the Jewish religion. If I can just quote you a little line from the Talmud.
No, before you quote a line, I'm trying to. What is the point you're making, though, Jane? Well, when you say it's more complex, were Corbyn's remarks racist?
I agree with everything you've said. So the point I'm trying to make is that you can't just say this, because there are people who aren't Jewish who are Zionist in the sense of that they believe in a Jewish homeland or for Israel
the Jewish
having the
people
right to exist.
Yeah.
Now, what I'm saying is that to Jewish people, to just say, oh, this is just a political movement, therefore if I call you a Zionist, it's nothing to do with Judaism or Jews, it's just politics. In the Talmud it says, if I forget thee, O Jerusalem, may my tongue cling to the roof of my mouth, may my right hand lose its strength, and it goes on and on and on, reminding the Jewish people in exile, because obviously that was written, those words were written. I don't know.
This is all getting a bit. But Jane, I don't really care what religious books say. If you're gonna otherize people in this country, I don't care whether God gives you that land or that's your claim. That's fair enough. I'm just interested in saying that Jane calling in from Liverpool is as British as anybody else. If I imply she's not, that's racist. For me, it's a very simple argument. I don't need to know what the Talmud said, Jane.
I'm only trying to give you the perspective of from Jewish people that it's. I think you're marvellous. I wish someone like you was the leader of the opposition, or you. I really do.
I don't want to run for politics.
And even if you criticise me or question me or Israel or Jews, I know you're no racist. So please don't misunderstand me. I'm just trying to say that in a Jewish person's heart, just as in your heart, no matter what some Muslims say. You're Muslim, in your heart. To Jews in their hearts, we've been raised that the focus, we don't have to go and live in Israel, but the focus, somehow, the spiritual focus is Jerusalem. Just as the spiritual focus of Muslims is Mecca. Now, I can't go into Mecca because I'm not Muslim. And in some ways I go, well, why couldn't I if I wanted to? But in other ways, I understand that it's not just about politics. It's not just about property, a piece of land. It's more than that.
All right, Jane, thank you very much. But for me, actually, it isn't really. It's very simple. These comments were othering of a community in this country. Put aside the biblical arguments and actually even, frankly, the Mecca arguments. Frankly, you should be allowed into Mecca. It's a city on planet Earth that belongs to all of us as human beings. But put aside the religious arguments. This is the leader of Her Majesty's opposition suggesting that a minority community are less English than. And that, for me, is just absolutely unacceptable, because I imagine him one day speaking about people like me in those terms, and it's just disgusting, frankly. But thanks for calling in. The time now at 1:31 is time for the news headlines with Simon Conway.
Pope Francis has spoken of his pain and shame at the Church's failure to tackle clerical abuse in Ireland. In a speech in Dublin on the first day of his visit, the pontiff said people had a right to be outraged at the response of senior figures in the Catholic Church. 2 men have been stabbed in separate attacks in London in less than 12 hours. The stabbings happened in Tulse Hill yesterday evening and then Edmonton overnight. Both victims are aged 23. Campaigners have welcomed a decision to allow women in England to take the second early abortion pill at home. A change in the law will bring the country into line with Scotland and Wales. LBC weather, a mixture of sunshine and showers this afternoon. The showers spreading across central and eastern areas, a high of 19 degrees.
LBC Travel on the M25. They're accusing both directions to the Dartford crossing after there was a police investigation earlier on at junction 1A for Swanscombe. Also on the M25 going anti-clockwise, it's very slow after an accident earlier on from junction 16 for the M40 to junction 17 for Maple Cross. There are severe delays on the North Circular eastbound at Neasden after an accident at the Iron Bridge earlier on. All the lanes are open now, but they're accused from Hanger Lane. In central London, a march is on the move through Parliament Square. It's heading to Hyde Park, so we'll go through Trafalgar Square and Piccadilly Circus. And on the rails, major engineering work means there are no trains going in or out of Euston Station until Tuesday morning. LBC Travel, I'm Dave Goff.
This is LBC.
The bank holiday sale at Oak Furnitureland is on now. So get a great new look, all in solid hardwood, and get up to 50% off. Whatever look you're after, modern, rustic, natural oak or painted, it's all there, including sofas at Oak Furnitureland. Our great range of fabric and leather sofas. And with mix and match on all dining, you can choose any table with any chair. The bank holiday sale at Oak Furnitureland. Don't miss it. There's a store near you. Ends Monday.
Last year in England, more than 250,000 workplaces took on an apprentice. I'm here with James Nevin from Blue Engineering to find out how apprenticeships have benefited their business.
As a young business in a competitive industry, it's not always easy to find the right talent. I first started looking into apprenticeships when the business pretty much started. Apprentices bring new ideas and their own creativity to the business, which we found gives us a real competitive edge. Once they're up and running, they really are a powerful force within a company.
To find out how apprenticeships can work for your business, phone 08000 150 600 for free advice or search Hire an Apprentice.
Lidl have a great range of British barbecue meats. Chinese-style chicken thighs, only $2.09. 4 sweet chili chicken skewers, just $2.19. Only $2.69 for vintage cheddar beef burgers. And maple glazed pork belly slices, just $2.69. Lidl, big on quality, little on price. Subject to availability, NI may vary. Selected stores while stocks last.
Ocean Credit Card.
Did you know if used responsibly, an Ocean credit card could help you improve your credit rating? It takes seconds to see if you'll be accepted and comes with a manageable credit limit of up to £1,500. There for when you need it. Go now to checkocean.co.uk. 39.9% APR representative variable. Intelligent Lending Limited is a credit broker. Capital One is the exclusive lender. Credit rating could be harmed if you don't manage it well.
Checkocean.co.uk.
Buying a new car can be a haunting experience. Is there enough room for the little monsters? Will it be devilishly expensive to run? Will I be haunted by the price? Well, from only $9,995, the all-new Dacia Duster gives you the freedom to get what you want with none of the ghoulies. Dacia, you do the maths. Participating dealers only.
Morning, Joe.
Morning, Mo.
Was your house built slap bang in the middle of Mo Farah's daily running route? No? Great! Then why not use Yopa to sell your home? You get your own dedicated local estate agent who'll sell your home in no time at all. See what I did there, Mo?
Yeah, good one.
You're most welcome. That's not as good. Book a free home valuation at yopa.co.uk. Yopa. Seriously, why not? Terms apply.
This is LBC with Maajid Nawaz.
Good afternoon. Far-right leaders rallied behind Corbyn, while a senior Labour MP called him a racist anti-Semite after a film emerged of him giving a speech using the words Zionists and othering the British Jews he was talking about. So why exactly were Corbyn's Zionist references deemed racist? 0345 6060973 is the number to call. We're going straight back to the calls. Harvey wants to speak to us from Stanmore. Go for it, Harvey.
Yeah, hi, good morning, Maajid.
Afternoon.
Thank you for taking my call. Just wanted to clarify on this term Zionism. You know, there are many people who use the term Zionism as a signal to show Jews. I don't believe this is necessarily always the case, but certainly within the Labour movement, or the far left of the Labour movement, the term Zionist comes to be almost it is a pejorative term to show that Zionism is something demonic, something awful. It's actually not. It's, as others have said, it is no more than the right of the Jewish people to self-determination in their own land, and it's a movement that was set up in the late 19th century by Theodor Herzl. as far as Jeremy Corbyn is concerned, he has actually crossed a red line there by actually showing the otherness of the Jewish people or Zionists by saying, what he said as far as English, English irony or British irony. What is English or British irony if it's not saying that somehow there is an otherness that whoever was in that room demonstrated something other than the British values, and in that he actually showed his real thoughts, clear and proper, and there can be no equivocation of it. He's banged to rights on it, Maajid, and I know Richard very well. I know him personally. He is a very fair and honest person. He goes to the meetings. He never interrupts. He records and he blogs afterwards.
Well, Corbyn said that, didn't he? He said, thankfully, Silent Zionist. That's exactly how Corbyn referred to him as.
Absolutely. And if you go on to Richard's blog now, you'll find he hasn't blogged for months.
But Harvey, there's something chilling about those words. Thankfully, Silent Zionist. In itself, it was gratuitous for Corbyn to insert that line within his sentence. In other words, don't speak.
Absolutely, don't speak. And the irony is that, first of all, Richard doesn't speak. He records and blogs afterwards. And he hasn't blogged recently because he has been shut down at these meetings. He's been prevented from recording. And in fact, with amnesty, he's not even allowed in. Because of his exposing of what goes on at these meetings. And I can tell you, the Jewish community is well established. My parents came here in the late 19th century and they struggled.
Oh, see, no, Harvey, stop a minute. It's just breaking my heart because look, yeah. I'm so sad that you even feel compelled the need to even say that you're well established or to even justify yourself. This is what it's come to. It's terrible. Can we please, Corbyn supporters, listen to this? You've got a man called Harvey from Stanmore calling onto national radio, having to plead with you that he's English. That's what it's come to, and if that isn't creating a racist climate, what is? Really, think about what you just heard there. Unprovoked, unsolicited. Harvey, I'm going to let you come back in a second. Unprovoked and unsolicited. Harvey has had to just say, I am English, this is why I'm English, because my grandparents came here and I've been here all my life. If a climate is created where people feel the need to do that, then that's not a good climate. It's not conducive. And if Corbyn is helping to create that climate, think about it. You're meant to be anti-racism activists. You're meant to be on our side. And you're making us feel other than. And that should give you food for thought. Harvey?
Yeah, Maajid, I wanted to reinforce something else about our Britishness and our Judaism. You know, something that possibly your listeners don't know, but in every single synagogue throughout the land, since the time we came back at the time of Cromwell in the late 16th century, in every synagogue we recite in English a prayer for the well-being of the royal family and
I know, I've heard it.
Wisdom into the hearts of her counselors.
It's more than I do, by the way. I'm a Republican with a small r. I've heard it. Yeah. Every time I've heard the Jewish prayer, I hear it.
For 350 years since the return after Cromwell, and to accuse us of otherness. Or to try and split Judaism from Zionism, to say, well, there's good Jews and there's bad Jews. It is offensive and it's anti-Semitic. And this time he has gone too far with this. It's the old adage of, if it's got 4 legs and it barks, it's a dog. Well, time and time again we've had this from this man. And this time he's been shown up to show this otherness, British values. And the irony, let me just say one other irony here, is that he says, the Zionists, or like Richard, needs an education. This man who left school with two A levels, E-grade A levels, and then dropped out of university, has the temerity to say that Richard needs an education is just beyond...
Richard, who graduated from the country's expert college on the Middle East, and he's saying he has no sense of history, which, by the way, Harvey, the irony is... only those with a sense of history understand that Zionism means the Jewish people's right to national self-determination. It's only those who understand history, that understand the dangers of the othering kind of language that Jeremy Corbyn used. It's only those who understand in particular World War II history that will be so alert and sensitive to why it's so dangerous for Corbyn to go down this line. You just heard a caller on my show call in to try and defend Corbyn and say it wasn't racist, and in the same breath complain that Jews are controlling the country and that 0.5% of the country are controlling the rest of us, and that this LBC is Jewish propaganda, in his words. And it's only with a sense of history do you understand that that's precisely the kind of rhetoric that Hitler adopted before his Holocaust. And the irony of Corbyn to say that actually it's us, we, who don't understand history, it's palpable, Harvey.
Absolutely. Actually, I went to a meeting of the far left who were trying on Tuesday night at the Conway Hall. There was about 500 Corbyn supporters there who are desperately trying to overturn the IHRA definition. So the simple, and I was in there, and it was chilling. It was like a Nuremberg rally. You know, every mem that you can think of against Israel that drew a standing ovation from these people. It was very difficult being in there, but I managed to get in, although I was semi-identified, and I could have been asked to leave. They are desperately trying to remove the IHRA definition because it stops them from actually. It stops them from actually,
doing precisely this, which is, it stops them doing exactly what we've just caught them doing, Harvey. Thank you very much for calling in. It's Harvey there from Stanmore. We're going to go very quickly to Hannah before we go to the break. So I want to squeeze Hannah in. Hannah from Manchester, tell us what you think.
All right. Hi, this is the first time I've called into your show,
Welcome.
So a bit nervous. So if I can just give a little blurb about my background, then you'll see where I'm coming from, if that's all right.
Very quickly, we don't have too long though, Hannah.
Yep. Okay. So basically, I've worked in Tower Hamlets, I've worked in Islington, I've met Jeremy Corbyn, and to be quite honest, he was very supportive because I had a work employment issue, blah, blah, blah. I'm Jewish, I'm Israeli. I've been here since I was 4. However, the only reason I've mentioned this thing about Corbyn is to show that I actually didn't have any axe to grind with him. As far as I was concerned, he supported me more than anybody else did. However, since then, I've definitely changed my views about him. What he said about Jews recently, I feel that is the real Jeremy Corbyn, and that people are just not seen the anti-Semitism in him, which I've always felt, even though when other Jewish people as well said, no, he's not, blah, blah, blah. However, I do, and I think from what he said was, it seems that to him, Jews should be viewed as a foreign entity, an outsider. We don't know British values, we don't assimilate, we don't integrate. And I'm thinking, how dare he say that about Jewish people who played a great big part in the Labour Party. Now he just wants to throw them under a bus. How dare he? And it's about time British public opened their eyes, because, as they always say, first it starts with the Jews, but it never ends with the Jews. I mean, it's absolutely disgusting.
And Hannah, actually, and by the way, it always does start with the Jews, which is why it's so terribly worrying. Whether you're a far-right racist or a far-left racist, it's always the Jews they pick on first, and then they come for the rest of us. And that's why I'm saying, right here, you draw a line and say, if you're going to go for the Jews, you're going to have to fight all of us together, because at the end of the day, we know from history, ironically, this is the lesson from history, that the first minority community to always, time and time again, throughout European history, the first minority community to be expelled and picked on has been the Jews. And Europe has a long history of that, and it's our sense of history that tells us that, and it's why we have to be so alert. Thank you, Hannah, for calling in. You're listening to Maajid Nawaz here on LBC. The time is 1:46.
LBC at the weekend. Andrew Castle.
High street chemist offering Botox. Can I just say how utterly ridiculous that is? Why do so many people want Botox or fillers or anything else? They're monetising something, and I think it's wrong.
Leading Britain's conversation. Andrew Castle. Today from 3 on LBC. Brexit analysis, political statements, global debates. It's never been more important to know your Times. Stay well informed with a subscription to The Times and The Sunday Times. Read the stories that matter, in print or online from just £3 a week. Search Times Subscribe today. Terms and conditions apply. Available to new subscribers only.
We are here every day and every night of every year. From newborn to old age. We never panic. We take a pulse, agree a plan, make a cuppa. We're doing our rounds, making our visit. We are Michelle, Adam, Alfie, Frankie, Yvonne. And at 3:49 this morning, we were Maisie too. We are the NHS and we are recruiting now. Search nursing careers.
At Dacia, we like to keep things simple, like the Sandero Stepway, our super tough mini SUV from just $9,595. See? Simple. Apart from the name, Sandero Stepway. Sounds like a lolly for builders. Although it has been hot recently. The Sandero Stepway, the mini SUV from Dacia, Auto Trader's best value brand from just $9,595. Only at participating dealers. Visit dacia.co.uk to find out more. Dacia, you do the maths.
Right now at Homebase, there's 3 for 2 on all paint and wood care. Hurry, offer ends Monday. Homebase, always your home, always low prices. In-store only, cheapest item free, excludes clearance outlets.
Save 10p a litre on fuel when you spend £60 at Tesco. A shopping trip to help your day trip. Tesco. Every little helps. Qualifying spend exclusions apply. Ends 26th of the 8th. Full T's and C's apply.
Meanwhile, in the Incredibles household, the end of summer doesn't mean the end of fun for Dash. Especially with Superfast Sky Fibre Unlimited for £25 a month, including line rental. It's on an 18-month contract with set-up fees from $9.95. And it's super fast, perfect for streaming. It's almost as fast as Dash. Search Sky Broadband. Pre-order Disney Pixar Incredibles 2 in Sky Store. Fibre areas only. New contract $38.99 after 18 months. Terms apply.
So much confusion, especially when it comes to comparing car insurance. Especially who to listen to, what to believe. Where should we look? Is it a deal? Is it real? Of course, there's a simpler way. One website that can make it crystal clear. Someone to calmly, simply show you the way when it comes to car insurance. Don't be confused. BeConfused.com.
The bank holiday sale at Oak Furnitureland is on now. So get a great new look. Get it all in solid hardwood. And right now, get up to 50% off. Because whatever look you're after, modern, classic, natural oak or painted, you'll get it for less in the bank holiday sale at Oak Furnitureland. There's a store near you. Ends Monday.
Maajid Nawaz on LBC.
Good afternoon, it's Maajid Nawaz here on LBC. We're on the subject of Corbyn and his, what I believe, racist anti-Semitic remarks. We're going to go to Rajid on the line from Stratford. Tell us what you think, Rajid.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, you're on air.
Oh, that's brilliant. It's just weird. I've just been listening so far, and I've been kind of interested in this whole Jeremy Corbyn anti-Semitism kind of row for a little while, just because we've experienced quite the influx of Islamophobia, and we have not been as quick to call out the racism for Muslims in particular as we have been for this particular issue. Now, for me,
what do you mean by Islamophobia, Rajid? What do you mean by Islamophobia? No, you're not going to... No. You're a guest on my show. I ask you questions as the host. So please explain to me what you mean by Islamophobia.
You have complained in the past about things being way too PC and people being too quick to shout racism when someone raises a genuine concern. We have just observed you doing the...
I didn't ask... I asked you a question, Rajid. What do you mean by Islamophobia in this country? You've just said we don't jump on Islamophobia when we see it in this way. I'm trying to understand what you mean by Islamophobia when you refer to it.
How you run a show, you have to have a dialogue. So would you like...
So are you going to answer my question? Or, Rajid, if you're not going to answer my question, I've got a full switchboard. I'll go to others.
That sounds very fascist.
No, it doesn't. It sounds like you're a guest on my show and I'm the host. If I walked into your home and just dictated to you how you're going to be, Rajid, are you going to answer the question?
This isn't a dialogue.
No.
Why do you put yourself as a dialogue show then?
Right. So if it's a dialogue, answer my question and then we'll go to another topic.
I will answer your question after you've answered my question.
You don't get to dictate the terms of a conversation on my show, Rajid. I'm sorry, that's not how it works. Thank you very much. Mandy from Edgware, speak to us.
Oh, hello. I've been really angry with Corbyn for the last few months, what's been happening, particularly when he was with the murderers of the poor Munich Olympic people. With this latest episode, I'm really hurt. I'm really, really hurt. I had to phone in. My family have been in England since the early 1800s and I consider myself absolutely British and English. I am Jewish, but I am English, British English, very patriotic. And when he said we need to teach them a lesson, who's we and who is them? Well,
I'm so sorry to hear this from you, Mandy, and I'm sorry that you're hurting so much. All I can do for people like you and me who are from minority communities is continue to speak out. But I really, I'm with you, and I understand how this has made you feel other than. You don't need to justify your Englishness to me in any way, Mandy, in any way.
And to be quite honest, I'm absolutely thankful that Israel does exist, because I will have to think of my future if he ever does get in.
This is your home.
Wasn't there.
Mandy, this is your home. If anyone needs to leave, it's the racists, because we defeated Hitler in World War II because of this kind of rhetoric, where he stigmatised and victimised minority communities.
But people are forgetting that.
I know, because ironically, they don't have a sense of history.
Ironically, yeah.
They don't have a sense of history, which is precisely what Corbyn was saying when he spoke about British Jews, and yet it's we and you, Mandy, and me who have a sense of history, which is why we are so alarmed by these comments.
Jews are rented irony. Jews have, we have irony. We are ironic. A lot of these things I would laugh off, and I would say, well, maybe he didn't mean it. But this, he actually said, it came from his mouth, didn't it?
It's if there was ever a time for people that were defending him to the last minute to realise now that this has gone beyond the pale, because of course the enormity of the office of Her Majesty's Opposition, the leader of Her Majesty's Opposition, and what that means for this country, it's too important to let go. And that's why his own MPs now are in open rebellion against this. That's why we've got MPs saying that he's now crossed a red line and they actually consider him a racist anti-Semite, because it cannot be allowed. Mike Gapes, former chairman of the Commons Foreign Affairs Committee, has said specifically he believes that this is now, to quote him, "I'm not prepared to support the racist anti-Semite, period. It's over for me." These are Corbyn's own MPs. These are Labour Party MPs. And I think that everybody listening should now realise that this has gone too far.
Well, he's got a new fan mail with the Ku Klux Klan.
Of course he has. David Duke and Nick Griffin. BNP's Nick Griffin. It's absolutely unbelievable that we've gone through the looking glass. And the other last thing I'd say, Mandy, is anyone who's still at this last moment trying to cling on and defend Corbyn, just think for a moment. Think how sensitive you have historically been as left-wingers against any perceived microaggression of racism coming from the right wing. If any otherising language was used about me and my brown skin by right-wingers, you'd be all over them. You'd be all over them instantly. And yet, here you're making excuses. For God's sake, you're the people that invented the term microaggression. And yet when there's a big fat macroaggression of an elephant staring at you, you want to nuance it away, and yet you invented the term microaggression when it comes to racism. Can you not see your hypocrisy, leftists, on this subject? It's microaggression for somebody to erect a statue of Churchill because Churchill was historically alleged to have been racist against South Asians like me. So it's microaggression to have a statue in a university campus, and yet what Corbyn said isn't racist. I mean, that's the situation we're currently in with these leftists and their double standards. And I plead with you just to think about that for you. You just heard from Mandy, who's in tears at being made to feel less than, as somebody who's English. It's the third, I think, British Jew who's called on during the course of this hour to plead with us that they are English. I mean, to even have to have that conversation, and you think you're worried about microaggressions, and you've got British Jews calling onto my radio show pleading for us to accept that they're English? And that's not a macroaggression against a minority community in this country? Just look up on the internet the numbers of Jews in this country and how vulnerable they must feel compared to the rest of us. Honestly, I am honestly appalled we've come to this. And Mandy, we love you and thank you for calling in. You belong here. This is your home. Do not leave. We will defend you. We will continue to speak in your defence. If anyone should leave this country, it's the racists. It's the anti-Semites. We defeated anti-Semites in World War II, and that's what it means to be English. Eve wants to speak to us from Hackney. Tell us what you think,
hi.
Eve.
Hi, I'm Eve from Hackney. Yeah, I just wanted to say I'm a left-wing Jew, actually. And I'm very disturbed by this. And I don't understand why one cannot criticise Israel without othering Jews in general or Jews anywhere. It's very easy.
It's very easy.
It's very easy. And Corbyn could have easily respect the Palestinian plight and talk about oppression without, then going into casting aspersions on Jews who don't get the English humour or Jews who have lived there, have not. It all creates division and unease. And it's actually unnecessary.
Eve, it's so easy to do. Let me do it for everyone listening right now, because we're getting lots of Corbyn supporters saying, Maajid, you're trying to shut down any criticism of Israel. Well, here you go. I don't like Netanyahu. I don't like his national Jewish homeland law that he's just passed. I don't like settlers in the occupied territories. Those occupied territories in the West Bank and Gaza are occupied. Palestinians deserve a national homeland. All of that doesn't make me an anti-Semite, and none of that means I don't believe that Israel also has the right to exist. That's how easy it is to do, to criticise Israel without being anti-Semitic. And by the way, if I were born in Tel Aviv, I'd vote for the Labour Party, not for Likud. There we are. I mean, it's not that hard, folks. It's very easy to do. So all of this obfuscation around this subject. Oh, Maajid, you just don't want people to criticise Israel. No one in this country, the establishment, whoever they are, doesn't want anyone to criticise Israel. All Corbyn is doing is defending the Palestinians. No, there's an easy way to do that without being an anti-Semitic and a racist. And unfortunately, he did it the racist way. We have to move on now. Thank you to everyone